This is for all my girlies who love Aritzia. As a fellow Canadian, I get it. They make really stylish clothes. But for this video, I want to chat about what they're doing in terms of their sustainability, their ethics, and how we can expect them to do better and how they should be doing better. Because I think you can shop wherever you want. Obviously, try to shop super mindfully and intentionally and buy things that you're going to wear and cherish for a really long time. But just know what we should expect from brands because we don't have a planet B. This is just based on some of the research that I've done on them, but there's way more data out there. So please take a look yourself. I just want to start this conversation and I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Let's start with how many styles that they're selling right now. Over 3,000 styles. That's way too much. None of us need to be buying that many clothing. And remember that these are just the amount of styles. Each style has multiple sizes and multiple colors. So that's a lot of clothing and that's essentially fast fashion. They do have these responsible styles, I think around 800 of them, which is a good start. What I do want to call out is that it's at least 60% recycled content, and that's not enough. If you're gonna call your collection responsible and say that it's like a more sustainable collection, it should be 100% recycled materials. It's a start, but you can do better. And then out of these styles, I like to see how many are made out of polyester. So I do a quick search and there's over 1,000 styles. And we know that polyester is oil. That shit doesn't break down. If they're gonna continue to produce at that scale, we shouldn't be using any new synthetics because it's all oil. It's all just super harmful for the environment.
To tell you how bad it is, we use over 70 million barrels of oil every year just to produce the virgin polyester that goes into clothing. We also use 100 million tons of oil annually in the fashion industry. That's for the creation, dyeing, and transportation of the clothes. 69% of all of the apparel that is created yearly is made from synthetic fibers like polyester, nylon, etc. So if we were to, as a collective industry, choose not to use synthetic fibers anymore or choose to use only recycled fiber, what an impact that would make across the industry. Because I feel like it would be a big one considering these facts.
Let's talk emissions. So Aritzia has this whole page where they're like, well, the first step is to track it, which is good, but they claim that they're carbon neutral based on their scope 1 and their scope 2 emissions, which if you see it here, most of their emissions are scope 3, which comes from the actual production and transportation of their clothing. They have a responsibility to offset those emissions as well. I feel like all these brands can claim that they're carbon neutral in their offices and things like that, but really it's so that they can say that they're carbon neutral in some sense, but you need to actually see what scale they're covering their emissions. Look at how their emissions doubled over the last 2 years. So their website doesn't say this right now, but I found this in their ESG report, and their scope 3 emissions went from 385,000 to over 780,000 tons of CO2. It went from 857 million in annual net revenue in 2021 to $2.2 billion in 2023. For any brand that is going to grow that much, I think you need to also proportionately, if not more, increase what you're doing in terms of sustainability and ethics. Obviously, Aritzia doesn't claim that, they're the most sustainable brand, but in this fashion industry, every brand has a responsibility, and I'm so tired of them being able to get away with it. What I think we should be expecting from any brand, and I want to see this regulated across the entire industry, is 100% net carbon neutrality across all of their emissions. If you were to uphold that, brands would have to do it no matter what. Yeah, it's going to cut their margins, and that's why businesses aren't going to do that because their shareholders want to make as much profit as possible. But let's say that that was something that was the standard. Food for thought.
Jumping on here again to say that the reason why we haven't done something like this in the government yet is because of the heavy lobbying by big oil companies to make sure that big oil continues to make the money. That's why it's so important to continue to be voting in our governments for legislation and to keep them accountable to be divesting from fossil fuels. We have this goal based on the Paris Agreement to be net zero emissions across the world by 2050, but that's too late. So that's why we should be talking about it even more now.
Something else I want to quickly call out is when brands use sus language, and this is a really great example of that. So for their packaging, they say that they use recycled FSC certified content. Here it says that 100% of their bags contain some recycled FSC content. That just means all their bags can contain like even just 1% recycled content, but what it should say is that they are all made out of 100% FSC certified materials or something. Something to just be careful there with greenwashing. Packaging is just one of the areas where like, why aren't they using materials that are already 100% biodegradable or compostable. I feel like that's just like table stakes. Aritzia has very long ESG reports. It's great that brands have goals for their environmental and their social impact, but even if it's a goal, it doesn't mean that they're going to hit it. And I think these brands can claim all of these things, but what are you gonna do if you don't hit that?
They champion sustainability and are committed to the protection, restoration, and resilience of the planet. Except they're not, because if they were, they wouldn't be using so much synthetics in their fabrics and emitting 780,000 tons of emissions. Anyway, let's see how they're doing in here. They have their priorities and their strategies, very vague goals. They partner with suppliers that also manage their environmental impact. You can see they use the Hague module for, comparing their performance. And the numbers are steadily improving each year. What I focus on is their climate section here to confirm their commitment to set greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets within 24 months. This is going to be really interesting to watch. So you can see that in 2022, they used 44% synthetic fabrics. So almost half of all of the clothes that they made in 2022, by weight I guess, were made out of synthetics. I want to see a commitment from them that they're going to use 0% synthetic fabrics by a set time. I feel like that would be the strongest goal that they can make for sustainability versus saying things like by 2027, a quarter of their synthetics will be recycled or bio-based, and 45% of their polyester will be recycled. I think at that point, by 2027, 100% of their polyester should be recycled. The one thing I love seeing here was that 100% of their denim styles will be made out of regenerative cotton by fall 23. And I would love all of their cotton to be regenerative or recycled cotton. The last thing I want to note is in terms of product circularity, they even recognize it themselves that they're basically not doing enough is what this means. It's hard with product circularity because you need to be taking responsibility for the entire life cycle of your clothes, which when you're making things that are synthetic and take 200 years and don't even fully break down, you can't really claim product circularity. So this is definitely lacking.
And in terms of ethics and labor, I'd love to see transparency in all the factories that they work with, because I feel like that's number one. And they have that information, but these brands just choose not to release them online. And the other thing I can't stress enough is the living wages. I think the language and the verbiage around, making like the average income that's required or necessary can still be very low, because it literally depends on where these factories are located and what the laws and regulations are around that.
What I want to see from Aritzia is embedding the living wage standard requirements in their code of conduct, because we don't see that. We only see minimum wage based on the local average. First, they show a map of where all of their facilities and suppliers are. This doesn't really mean anything except for the fact that they have them across the world. There's just really loose language. Like, they work collaboratively to incentivize sustainable improvements. What does that even mean? It would be great to see examples of this. They give environmental and social performance feedback through scorecards. But what's done with the feedback? I'm also so curious what their relationship with the ILO is. Are you not just name dropping for the clout here? Like, if anybody knows or has connections to the ILO and the Better Work program, like, I'd love to see examples. Like, it just leads to the Better Work website.
These are just a few of the things that I wanted to call out. I think any brand that's going to be making that much clothing at that rate is responsible for what the clothes are made out of, lowering our reliance on fossil fuels, whether that's in actual energy that we use or the things that we're producing. It's free and it's easy for us to continue to talk about what we want from these brands. Leave comments on their socials. When you're going and buying something, just be like, oh, well, it would be really cool if you could tell me about all the factories pieces are made at. Just like comments there so that we can continue to get them aware that like this is a conversation that they are a part of and they need answers, and not just the gimmicky marketing ones. I think we need that across every single brand. So you tell me what you would rate them or how you think they're doing in terms of their sustainability and their ethics, and I'll leave links to all of these resources and where I found their reports in the description box. I just want to wrap this video by saying if you made it this far, thank you so much. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know by commenting and liking the video, because it would mean a lot. It would help this video out so much. If you have other brands that you want me to do a quick deep dive into, let me know down below as well. And then also, I want to hear what your guys' thoughts on this are based on what I share in the video or what you know from them. I think it's so important for us to get into the habit of checking on these things from brands, because we need to be knowing how they're doing in order to be able to expect better. And it's up to us, because there hasn't been any sort of regulation standardized across the industry, and it should be a priority because the fashion industry has such a big impact on global emissions, on just a global network of even like workers, if that makes sense. So that's where I'm coming from, but hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye everyone.